Pseudomaze, old news, but what did you think companies switching from Python to another language and why they pick a slower language in the first place when working on projects? Old news, but what do you think companies switching from Python to another language and why they pick a slower language in the first place when working on big projects? I don't know if I'll be able to actually see this. So we'll do this. Dkilishek. Let's go through what Pseudomaze had first, and then we'll go into Dkilishek's question. So I don't think I've used all of my Medium things. Believe it or not, I don't actually have an account. I should probably. Let's see. In this blog, we continue our series on reducing costs in Adobe Experience Platform. We look at cost optimization. Enterprise CIOs are asked to do more with less. We want to share learnings, explore cost optimization, we break down our process for finding areas we can reduce. Okay, as we talked about in our post, after 6 years of expansive growth, we need to start finding ways to reduce the amount of money things cost to operate. So I'm assuming that in your initial question, I'm not going to read the whole thing. You posted the link, so I'm sure people can go on and figure it out. But here's probably the part that we're looking at. With code, the question you have to ask yourself is, are you using the right code for the job? For example, if you have something that computes intensive or time sensitive, using an interpreted language like Python or JavaScript, for that matter, doesn't make a lot of sense. You'd probably better off using a compiled language like Java. A REST API microservice written in Java will typically use fewer resources than a microservice written in Python. A Java microservice that uses one less CPU or one less gigabyte of RAM compared to a Python microservice does the same job, can result in significant cost savings if the deployment is at large scale. And there are pros and cons to even saying Java versus Python, right? Because if you're going to be doing, if your microservice is like a machine learning model, then you're going to pick Python over Java, right? So there's a lot of context that is probably missing from this. This sounds like this is a generic microservice. And so usually the reason why people will pick something that is, for example, Python is slower than Java, is because the people who built the service originally probably were Python developers, and so they were just more comfortable with that. And so instead of thinking of performance and reliability and code optimization and pricing and all that stuff, they were more focused on functionality. We need to build this thing, and it needs to be able to do ABC, and so they built it in the language they were most comfortable with. And then later on, as things like performance became a lot more important, they saw that, oh, we're using Python here. This is something that Python is not a good candidate for. What if we use a more performant language, something like a Java or a Scala or a C# or Go, something like that. Go would smash Java. So if they really wanted to do something that was faster, I would have gone with something like Go. But they probably thought, we have Java developers, we don't have Go developers, and so at least Java in this microservice will be better than Python, so let's move into that. So it's, like I said, it's usually because at the beginning they're not thinking about these quality attributes like performance and cost. They're looking more at functionality and let's solve the problem in the language we know how to use. It's very common, actually. This happens quite often. So just so you know, that's, yeah. It's a pretty common thing that happens in a lot of places. For example, if someone asked me to write an API in some language, I would probably pick Python or Go. I wouldn't even touch Java, right? I would use something else. And if it had to do, like I said, ABC, I would make sure it is ABC, get it up and whatnot. And because I'm a tester, I would be thinking of things like performance and reliability, and I would be doing, SRE kinds of things with it. But yeah, it's good to think about the overall performance of it compared to other languages. I would only start with Python because that's the language I know best, but that doesn't mean it's the right choice. So interesting stuff. Makes sense. Thanks. You're welcome. You're welcome. It's why you want to do holistic testing. Oh snap! Here we go. That transition though. That transition to what Dkilishek is asking. I know, right? It's why you want to do holistic testing, because if all you think about is the functionality and you do the testing later, you fall into this pit. So let me show you actually, because I have a presentation for this that I'm going to be delivering here soon.